Oh, I'm live. Awesome. My nose looks very red in this video. Hello, YouTube, again. I am here with the Vega 64, and as far as the Hackintosh is going, it works. It works for the most part. I've spent the past week tweaking Vega power play tables and trying to get the voltage down because this is ridiculous. It's my power draw at the wall, it was pushing like 700 watts. And that was only when this was under load. When this wasn't under load, it was like 200. So it's like 500 watts right there. So I've got a stable undervolted core, undervolted the memory, and overclocked the memory, and it's put a better fan speed in, and it's much, much better now. But with that being said, it's still pretty hot, and it's not the core that's hot. There's a hot spot temp. The hot spot temperature reading is like 10 degrees higher than the core, sometimes 15 Celsius, obviously. So that makes me think that either there's not good HBM contact. I know Steve at Gamers Nexus did a really good breakdown of these reference coolers and how they sometimes have poor surface flattening. So I'm assuming that I'm only thermally limited because of that hotspot, and I'm going to try and disassemble this and put some Thermal Grizzly, where is it? Here it is. I always want to say cryonaut, not liquid metal. I thought about liquid metal, but if the surface is uneven, I want to fill those gaps rather than just put liquid metal on, which isn't made to fill gaps necessarily. So I think the conductonaut's going to be cryonaut, the non-metal one, is going to be much better for that purpose. In doing that, I also took this out and I took off the backplate and saw that it's absolutely useless. There's literally it's aluminum, so it'll conduct heat, but there's no thermal pads and there's no thermal contact on this. It goes that way. So this is purely cosmetic, and I thought, okay, well, if I can put some thermal pads on the what are those? The FETs? I think they're the FETs. No, those look like, well, those only have one lead on each side, so they look like caps. The other side of the power stage, where there's also heat. If I can put some thermal pads on that and connect the backplate thermally, then that should help, in theory. So that's first, I guess. That and the other side with the Hackintosh is I ran out of SATA ports, because RAID array with lots of drives. One of the ports is being eaten up by this, because when you have, even if it's a PCI Express SSD in the Designare, you lose at minimum one SATA port, if not two, if you have it in the other slot. So I wanted to get that slot back, and in doing so, thought, why don't I also speed this up? I don't know if I'll see a performance improvement. I might. But speed it up by putting it on the CPU PCI Express lanes, because the M.2 slots go to the chipset, and there's actually a PCIe slot that goes right to CPU lanes. So I'm going to save a SATA port and maybe improve the performance of this. I'm probably not bottlenecking the PCH, but by running this straight to the CPU over the PCI Express connector. So I just got one of these for like 15 bucks. Which literally is just like some traces. At least it better be. I've seen some with chipsets that actually slow down the card, but this is just a few caps and some traces. So yeah, this is gonna give me one SATA port back. And then I also bought another 2-port SATA card to try and add some more that way. So the first step actually in doing the Vega is getting the 970 Pro mounted up in this so that I know how many thermal pads I need for this and how much I have left over for Vega. So we'll start with this, and I'll move the camera to the work area. But the Hackintosh works, so that's great. I will be doing a full video on the full config and bugs and all of that later. I just wanted to make sure that I had something operational before to show off when I did that. Didn't want to be telling people how to do things wrong in a way that would not work. All the kinks are almost worked out though. Sorry for the delay in video. All right, so PCI Express NVMe adapter. Let's move this SSD to the CPU lanes. So this should be quick and easy. And one other thing that I learned from Steve at Gamers Nexus, I think this is like the best channel. I don't even game, but I learned a lot about hardware there. One other thing I learned from him is that you do not want to necessarily cool the flash. You want to cool the controller. Cooling the flash actually degrades the life of it. It should be at like 40 C or something. The controller is what heats up, and that's what you want to cool. So we're going to cut the thermal pad down to a size where we're just moving heat from the controller. So many things to remember for this. I keep saying So we're going to want to only transfer heat from the controller to the heatsink and not the NAND. We do not want to cool that as such. So we've got our thermal pads. We've got the heatsink that it came with. Yeah, pretty straightforward, just a block of aluminum, presumably. And I'm also going to need to mount the PCIe bracket. It came with a full-size and a low-profile bracket. We will be wanting the full-size bracket. So I'm not sure if this is supposed to go on top or underneath. So I might consult any instructions that may or may not have come in the box. Let's see. Many thermal pads are included. Where is that visible to the camera? There it is. Yes, low profile bracket. Remove the plastic wrap. Align the M.2. Fasten the screw nut. Thermal pad on the back. Again, we're only going to, well, maybe we'll run it along the whole back. And then thermal pad on top. And place the heatsink on a flat surface with holes facing up. Tilt the adapter align to edge of heatsink. Oh, so the bracket goes on after the heatsink goes on? I don't think it matters, but we'll do it in their order if that's what they want. It does appear that it goes underneath the card. So let's see how many. They gave us a lot of like excess thermal pads, which is where I got the idea to do Vega. Looks like the gray one goes underneath, the blue one goes on top. Probably just thickness. One thick blue, one thin blue, one thick gray, one thin gray. Okay, and gray goes on bottom and blue goes on top. So they're just different materials, and we have two thicknesses of each. I'd like to try and save the thick ones for the Vega. Let's see what this looks like without any pads, get an idea. So it's very close to the surface. The thin one will probably do. If we even need that at all, it probably will be a good idea to at least sync the back of it to the PCB. I don't want to eat up a whole thermal pad, so we'll take one of these gray ones. Thin one, let's size that up before we waste it. No, stay in your place. There we go. Yeah, thin looks perfect. That's good, because we'll probably need more height for the Vega. So thin one underneath, and then we're gonna cut, I'm gonna assume the thick one because there's a lot of height there. We're gonna cut that one down to just the controller portion. Ah, I see how this works. There were some confusing LEDs on this board, and it looks like there's actually some clear slots that this thing lights up. I don't know if it's just on all the time or if it signifies disk activity or what, but that should go on like that-ish, maybe more like that. And yeah, there's a lot of room in there between the SSD and the top. It doesn't look like it because it's springing up right now. So we'll start by fastening the SSD down. Let's use this gray pad, the thin gray pad. That plastic removal key. All right. Mount this to the back of here, targeting the controller mostly, but I think we'll get pretty much total coverage. Apologies if this isn't the most visible on camera. I'd rather do this right, even if it means being at an unfortunate angle for the camera. All right. I think that is good. Awesome. We have padded our SSD. Now we can remove the other side of plastic. Maybe. No! Don't do that. Stay put. I think it's stretched. I think I just made it longer. It didn't slide. It's just covering a larger surface now, so it stretches out. It's good to know. I'll be more careful with the next one. All right. That is covering enough of the controller. Let's mount this. Oh yeah, that's the perfect size. The thin one is the one. Wonder what the thick bottom one is for. I know M.2 is like a spec. I don't know why there'd be more room. Let's grab some screws as they go everywhere and find the M.2 backing. It looks like it's this little ring here. Cool, I think. Make sure I'm doing the right one or putting it on the right side. It just says install M.2 and fasten screw. It's not very specific. So it's probably the tiny one. Also want to confirm that these are the same. Yes, they are. So they probably just give you a backup. Or they put the same accessory kit in their 2-drive model. That makes more sense. Or I'm not installing it correctly. That also would be a possibility. That does not make any contact with the drive, so I have to assume I did that wrong. Maybe the gold part, maybe the gold part goes, I have no idea. I am lost. Perhaps, oh, I see. I think this is like a standoff that the drive rests on. And then the other one, which just fell on the floor, goes on the other side. I found a screw, but I didn't find the screw. Please don't make this another video of just hunting for screws. M.2 SSD gold standoff. device. But I'm live now, so there's no going back. I heard it hit wood, so I will find that. I really don't think I need the second one, though. This should just mount there. I apologize for being stuffy, too. I just got over-recalled. This is super interesting, the way they do this. Okay, that works. I don't think I need the other gold one. I think I put a screw on the back and a screw on the front, but there's only one gold standoff. There we go. And that raises the height of this so that you need the thick heat sink standoff thing, the thick thermal pad heat sink standoff thing. But that is level. This is really one of my first times dealing with M.2 stuff, this build. My last build was so old. This did not, well, I'm sure it existed, but it wasn't something you put in a build. So I can tighten this down. Now we're doing it right. Now I need the thicker of the thermal pads. I'm going to carefully remove this without tearing it, hopefully. There we go. That should still come back off that. And we need the thick gray pad. Although I really do question the efficacy of putting a pad on the back of this. And I'm wondering if it's really worth it, as opposed to just putting one on the controller. Maybe I'll just put it on the back of the controller. I don't know. Let's do it the way they asked us to. No idea. I mean, putting thermal pads on the back of the Vega, that kind of makes sense because there's actual components there. There's not really much here, though. It's just the PCB. But I really don't want to have to take this out. That's another reason why I'm also happy I'm switching to the card slot as opposed to the M.2 in the motherboard, is that this will actually be accessible now without having to remove my graphics card to get to it. That's a huge pain. So, and there was like for installing Ubuntu, I think I need to remove the M.2 SSD because for whatever reason, the Ubuntu installer likes to write the grub bootloader to the NVMe drive. No matter what I tell it, the bootloader ends up on the NVMe drive, which I don't want. Oh, hi. I paid $3.99 on Black Friday. Cyber Monday, rather. Yeah. Then it went down lower after Cyber Monday. It dropped from $3.99 to $3.69, but now I think it's back up to $3.99. But that's fine. I wouldn't have paid more than that. I mean, to tell you the truth, I would have rather had an NVIDIA card, but Mac OS. This also looks questionable. The thin one was making no contact, but this seems bent. I mean, ever so slightly. It looks like there's a bend in it now. Focus, camera. I don't like that either. Maybe they just missized their... I think I'll just loosen the screw up a bit. Nope, that's not a good idea. It just needs to stop the thing from popping out, and it's doing that, albeit not much. Oh, sorry, I missed that comment. Where are, view the chat. Oh. What video would you recommend for Windows? Depends on what you're doing. If you're doing like video editing, possibly, I think RTX 2070 might make sense. It's a really nice compute card. And some programs have been talking about being able to utilize the, like DaVinci, utilize the RTX cores. So that would be cool. If not, 1080 Ti, 1080, 1070 Ti, something in that range. I honestly couldn't recommend a Vega. They're so power hungry and they need a lot of tweaking. All right. That's good enough. Not 100% happy with it, but it'll have to do. It's just too thick of a thermal pad, but this is what I have. So now we get to put this on. This is where we'll cut it down to size for the controller. And we will definitely need a thick pad for that. Hopefully this will flatten out that bend. So we'll take the thick blue pad and we will find scissors and cut that to the size of the controller, so as to not kill the flash by making it too cold. And to save pads for the Vega, because I don't have any others. I don't really want to go all out on backplate cooling. Okay, so this is going to go right over the controller only, just like that. Perfect. Sorry for all the sniffling. I'm getting over being sick. I knew people were waiting for videos. And I like doing this too. I have to get this done. It's basically done. I have begun to install some software. Like I've installed NI Complete 11. I've installed the software for, oh my gosh, the software for my Rolly C board. All right, that should do it. And now this goes on LED side over there, lining up the holes, and let's hope this makes contact, and it will. Beautiful. So we'll line up that edge and slide the holes together. Line up the back. There we go. Oh my gosh, did I missize this one too? That looked like a huge space, but I think the thick one is too thick. So I was wrong twice. Please don't be adhesive. There we go. Let's try the thin one. Apparently, estimating thermal pad thickness is not my strong suit. There we go. That's a reasonable size for the controller. There's the controller. It's a little extra, but nothing too extra. Well, that other one was hard to remove, and this one's even harder because it's so malleable because it's thinner. I need a tool for this. There. Awesome. Being very careful not to rip the pad. Almost. Almost. Great. Stay on the controller. Cool. All right, thermal pad. Oh my gosh. Stay centered. Yeah. All right, there we go. Controller thermal pad. Now let's see if this fits. I'm really not happy with that. I'm going to cut the bottom one forwards a little. I think that'll resolve the issue without too much changing. The bottom one is just, or I could just not use a screw. I might just do that. I think I just won't use a screw. Then it doesn't bend. It just allows it to rise up slightly. And this thing is pretty sticky. I don't know why I keep holding this up so high. I like hold it up for the camera and then realize I'm holding it beyond the camera's reach. I do apologize. There we go. And that will stay put, it looks like. Your views on the video are on the app. That is awesome. Very cool. I actually haven't checked. I've been like just off the grid as I've been sick. Thank you. That's cool to know. I do come up on Google when you search for Designare Hackintosh, so that's pretty bizarre. Being that I was the one Googling for help when I found myself on there. I'm trying to decide about, yeah, that's fine. Cool. So, I mean, I think I'm done. This isn't the thing I ever plan to disassemble. That's why I'm being very picky about how it's assembled. I assume these thin ones are the heatsink screws, most likely. They are. Great. That will definitely keep it mounted. I do much prefer recording these live rather than shooting and editing. Although I'm sure I'll do a few of those traditional YouTube videos. I'm just checking out the, no, I'm holding it up to my face, not the camera. I'll look this up. Checking out the gap and the spacing. Again, I'm not using a screw to hold the other end down because it was putting a lot of torque on it, and I really didn't like that. But it seems fine. The bottom pad is semi-adhesive, and on the top we have contact between the heatsink and the controller, so that should be good. I could put a pad on the flash, but I'm gonna go with Steve from Gamers Nexus and go with his advice. Try cutting the thermal pad down and see how it goes. Just gonna check the spacing in there. That flash is almost touching the heatsink anyway. It's all right though. Cool. Now we put a PCIe bracket on this. I'll watch the temps. If the temps go too high, then I guess I'll just take it back apart. So the PCIe bracket. There are some large screws that came with it. This is probably what these larger screws are for. Yeah, the screw's going to have to go in first, and then I'll have to attach this. Stupid sniffling. Something's not happening well. I don't know what it is. Maybe the screwdriver tip is inaccurately sized. Nope, there's just a ton of resistance on not the PCB, thank goodness, but on the PCIe bracket. So there's one, and now the other one. This thing looks really cool, actually. They did I feel like I have an Optane drive or something expensive like that. Not like the 970 Pro was cheap per gigabyte, but you know. This is going to be much nicer in the CPU slot. I didn't notice, there wasn't any like extremely noticeable bandwidth degradation, but I was capping out on, I believe it was reads. Reads or writes that were slower on this drive. It's bizarre. I think it's the interesting. I think the writes were faster than the reads, but I was capping out at like 3 gigs a second, and it's advertised at 3,500, and I was starting to suspect that the reason for that might be that I was in PCH lanes when I could have been in the CPU lanes. Yeah, so we're going to hope that rear heat sinking is enough. We want to keep the flash warm but not hot, but we also don't want to be like cooling it down to ambient. So we'll see how it goes. That looks like it. Hopefully this works. Now we have all this thermal pad left over, and now we can start the fun part. So, Vega. Let's start. I'm terrified of this right now because I've read many reports on the interweb of people reseating their Vega and then it just not working. So I'm going to have to be extra careful that when I'm reattaching it, that it goes on right. Also, this warranty void if removed sticker, that's not valid in the United States. So they can stop doing that. That would be nice. It just makes life harder. It's trying to scare people away from opening up their cards, I think. Maybe we shouldn't start with the bracket. Let's start with all of these that are probably mounting the plastic casing on. Hopefully this will improve temps. I have a high suspicion that there's not good HBM contact currently. It would explain why I have a pretty decent core temperature, but a really high hot spot temperature. Many, many screws. All right, is that it? Oh, the bracket, the faceplate is going to need to come off as well. At least maybe it won't actually. Maybe it won't. So it's mobile, but it is attached. Okay, so I think I need to remove these side screws next, possibly. I really don't know. I'm just going to remove the backplate thing, or the rear bracket. Try and remove it with even tension on all 4 points. And pull the whole thing off and then disassemble the cooler to see we'll see what's actually going on there. Might make for a smoother reassembly. Didn't know this was bent via tension. I thought it was just a bent piece of metal. It springs up. So very carefully remove this. Being careful not to tear any of the existing thermal pads. I've heard that they rip very easily. How's this attached? Okay, so there's 4 screws in the front. No, there's more than 4. There's like 6 screws in the front top. Front/top. That are holding it in. It's in there. 2, 3, 4. 5. And 6. Cool. Now let's try that. Aha. It's moving. There's multiple fan cables. I don't know why. Let's remove. Oh, I bet one's a fan cable, and the other is a LED cable for that Radeon logo on the side. This is unpleasant. These tiny headers always scare me. I'm always afraid I'll pull the motherboard part off of it. Okay, and then there's this other tiny, looks like LED power over there. This is gonna be tricky to put back on. I can probably rotate this. Just making sure I didn't miss a screw. Hey, that's it. Look at that. It's a Vega 64. And there is minimal. There's barely any thermal paste on that. There's minimal thermal paste. Oh, it looks like some squeezed out the side. I might have spoken too soon. It's very thin and or dry though. So that is definitely questionable. We didn't rip any thermal pads, so that's a good thing. Oh my gosh, what's up with this LED header? Wow. Is there like an eject to it? It's quite stuck. Nope, it's just difficult. And that's a lot of pressure that I was just applying. Definitely afraid to put more. Let's grab pliers to make sure you don't accidentally rip off the motherboard header side of that. Grab just the plastic bit we want. Really? Okay. Well, that's impossible. It's done. This is a Vega 64 reference board and reference crappy cooler. It's pretty. So, get to clean off the dye now. Rubbing alcohol. Gonna use microfiber because I've heard the HBM is sensitive. Oh, there's rubbing alcohol everywhere. All right. Microfiber cloth. Cool. And this dye is molded. Looks like some of the newer dyes, well, the older dyes, not older. It used to be like 50-50. Maybe it still is, and I just got lucky. But some dyes have separate chips for the HBM and the core, but this is all molded into one package, which should make contact with the heatsink better. I was also told to not try and get it clean on the caps necessarily. This is non-conductive, but you can be prone to breaking off the tiny caps on the edge of the chip. So I'm going to try and not scratch those, but just get some of this clean. At least I hope they use non-conductive material. That would be hilarious if they didn't and the thing fried. It's more important that I not snap off these little regulators that are on the die. I know Thermal Grizzly is non-conductive, but I don't know what kind of garbage they used. This thing draws so much power, though. Cool. Maybe I have had some luck with just like air pressure blowing some of the loose stuff off. Let's see if that works. Where is the compressed air can? Hey, that does work. It's high pressure. Safer than trying to scrape some SMDs off the PCB. Cool. All right, that's the bulk of it off. I'll sort of polish it up now. Oh, that was none. It's very nice. Interesting. There are no markings on that chip. Nothing that says AMD, Vega 64, the architecture. It's just blank. Just some blank silicon. There's a nice scratch down the middle of it too, which is concerning. I didn't do that either. That's just a line down the center that is there. So I assume that happened in the factory and or was caused by the cooler. Let's get some stuff near the HBM. More than good enough. That's a very clean die. Now on to the heatsink part, I guess. So the deal with this block, I don't know what the deal with this block is. I guess I'm going to have to remove this outer casing to get to the copper block inside. So let's start with that. It's going to be a pain to clean this in here. I mean, I guess I could. Do I want to? Not really. Let's just disassemble it. When in doubt, take stuff apart. At least there's not like a boatload of screws on this. These three shorter ones are the ones from the block, yes. Oh wait, no. 1, 2, 3. Don't get screws mixed up. These are these. Those are those. Oh, interesting, actually they're all the same. So, except for these two. What were these two? No idea. It's okay, I'll figure it out as I go. This is like the least professional card assembly, least prepared. These are all the same. Is that it? Oh, there's screws on the top as well. Here's where we want to be careful to not squash or damage the existing pads, but they look fine. They're all recessed. Never mind, there aren't screws on the top. They're fake screws. So AMD got me there. Where the heck? You can see I obviously have not researched this. Oh, there we go. It's just tight. That's a terrifying noise. I do think it's just the sound of the pressure of this scraping against itself, though. Don't think it's damaged. Either that or I'm breaking some other, like, warranty void if removed seal. Which is such a joke. Yeah, that's what's happening there. It's just the pressure of the card. Don't get to potentially break $400 GPUs every day. Vega used to be so expensive. It still is if you get the wrong one. Like, I mean, this Strix card is still like $700. It's like, really? It's the same chip. It's not that good. Especially with like RTX stuff out. I mean, RTX, you don't buy it for the RTX. Is pretty useless. But just as far as raw performance goes, it's way better for the price. I was right. That is the Radeon logo LED wire that lights up that word. Here's the blower. That is interestingly just like floating. Entire blower assembly is just floating. And then here's our heatsink. Look at all those fingerprints that are not mine. I did not touch this. It just fell out. So good job, Sapphire. You scraped the die, didn't apply enough thermal paste, and left your fingerprints all over the top. Maybe that's why it was only $300, $400. Let's clean off the other end of this chunk of copper Oh, wow. Look at that. There's dents in it. Look at the, like on the, I mean, yeah, it's spotted, but there's two massive dents. Where's the light? That's, yeah, right there. See those two dimples? There's that 80 degrees Celsius hotspot I was running into. Oh my gosh, this is a damaged block. There's like pinholes in it and fingerprints on it, but it still has all the stickers on it, so it obviously wasn't returned. It wasn't some dude that did that. It came out of the factory like that. That is ridiculous. I've never seen something like that come out of like the factory and pass quality control. That's a joke. Well, I looked and looked and looked for a replacement cooler before I bothered doing all this. I was, can I just get something better? But I couldn't find anything. There's one that's air. It's the Rygen Tech Morpheus 2, and it's impossible to find anywhere. So I was like, you know what? I'll just use the stock one, and I'll make the best of it. And I will continue to do that despite its poor condition. I mean, thermal paste should fill that in. That's a good reason to not use liquid metal, because liquid metal probably wouldn't be a good, it's not a good candidate for liquid metal. Not to mention it could leak out and short the SMDs, but man, those dents, just one more time. There they are, right on the die contact surface. You could do that exactly. All right, let's clean off some of the fingerprints that they left on this. Looks like that was me. Nope, I don't think that was me either. That little squash thing. I felt something, but I have done this a couple times and all right, well, that's that. It's not getting any better than that. So in what order does this get reassembled? I assume the block with the thermal pads is going to go back on first with the blower, and then the copper. These pads are also, some of these are barely in where they're supposed to be. They're not really making good VRM contact, so let's try and fix that while we're at it. I have a feeling I will be seeing far improved thermals. So this is right, that's right, that's right, that's right, that's right. These are quite not right. Be very careful with these. That one went here. Man, they didn't even mount the thermal pads correctly. It was literally off. Really just off of it. They're off to the side. That's crazy. So what do we have so far? We got two dents in that were not caused by me. We got fingerprints, those are mine, that were not caused by me on the top. We have a dented fin. This is all straight out of Sapphire's factory. We have thermal pads that were off to the side, and like, I mean, that's the best of them. That one was literally half off. This is a joke. It's a joke card. Anyway, let's try and move that other thermal pad. Where's my pointy metal thing? Let's try and get this off in one piece without it tearing and center it where it should be. There's that. They literally just didn't, they just threw this together as fast as they could and sent it out the door. I would have expected more from a top of the end card. Sapphire is a good company. They used to be. They're like the VAMD supplier. Or whatever, partner. Let's realign that. That is now less off of the power stages than it was. Still kind of off the power stages. And that is stuck. There we go. So this I'm kind of worried about, but I can't really, there's no way to really stick it down. I'm just going to have to be really careful when I mount it. Unlike Sapphire. Cool. That's good, that's good, that's good. These ones were in the right spot. These, I can tell, or we can maybe see. Focus, camera. Okay, now I just need to get the right light. That's close enough. There. We can see that that this is relatively centered all the way down. So I'm not worried about those. I don't know what this is. Ah, that's a bit of this length of pad that ripped off. But it is centered, so it'll go back right on where it was. It's not missing anything there. Is there anything that should have pads on it that doesn't? These power stages here could use something, potentially. And these guys... Oh, I see. So these, there's this whole set of power stages in the back. They don't have any pad. They actually just go directly in the line of fire of the blower, and they stick through. So that's fine. How else can we make this better? Same goes for these two guys back here. These have corresponding holes that look like they just get air from the blower. So nothing to do there. It looks like, so these pads here are making contact with the, thanks for the like, whoever liked this. These pads here are making contact with the tiny silver guys there. But these ones here are exposed, and the black ones, let me touch it. There it is. Those are exposed, and I don't think they're making contact with the block, so I don't know what's going on there. That's a question mark. And then the only other questionable thing are these few, not VRMs, but some kind of power section stuff that has no thermal pads on it whatsoever. What do these do? We got that there. We got PCIe power coming in there. Power stage, VRMs. Oh, those are just caps, that's why. I think. 0.82. Oh, they're inductors. Microhenries. 1741M. So those probably don't need cooling. So I think this is a massive improvement as far as that. Literally, like, this line shows that that was half off of the VRM. It was barely even making contact. This thing is going to fly off. It just wants to leave. So I'm going to do my best to not make Sapphire's mistake and have it hanging off. I'll see if I can push it down before I do this. If I can't, we'll just move on. Try and, like, oh yeah, it's semi-adhesive. It's adhesive enough. Yeah, that'll keep it where it's supposed to be. Stupid sniffling. All right, let's do this. Remounting the metal thing, chassis, bracket, whatever. Stay lined up, stay lined up. You know they did not take this much time to mount this at the factory in China. It says made in China, that's the only reason I know that. They were probably just like, oops, it slipped, and slid all the thermal pads off in the process. There we go. That's it. Let's attach the blower and remount, I guess, or reattach whatever we can so as to not lose our beautiful thermal pad mounting. And the blower, that seems to want to fly off. I'll start with the blower. These are not all the same. The thinner ones are the blower. It's a miracle that I end up finding the original spots for any of these. Second thin one, there it is. No, I have too many hand tasks. I have to hold the blower in place while I mount this and continue sniffling. I had a sudden fear that my fingers were on the die and I was just holding it up by the die. I am not. Here's the third thin one. You can do. Great, now I don't need to hold the blower up anymore. And that should keep this relatively mounted. Thermal pads are still looking good in there. We'll now reattach the remainder of this, except for obviously the copper GPU block. All right, we'll do the corners first. Should do opposite corners first. That is more correct. Cool. Right. This corner, that should be enough for now. There. That should keep this on. I still can't get over just that the thermal pads weren't even touching anything. Or like 50%. All right, time to repaste the die. This thing needs cleaned off from my last usage. Needs to be cleaned off. Why did that light up? Keyboard. I don't know. Must be power on the USB hub. There's no computer. Well, there's a computer attached to it, but it's unplugged. This. Clean off the exposed Thermal Grizzly. There you go. This thing is kind of hard to clean, but it's a pretty useful applicator, especially for something like this where you need to manually smooth the surface. Glad I got over my fear of this block, because I didn't know I'd find such a disaster inside. I was so close to leaving it just because of the horror stories I heard of people not booting. But watch this, it just won't boot. I will have broken it after we're done. For some inexplicable reason. My OCD doesn't like the paste on those caps, but that's fine. I have to get over it because I'm not about to scrape one of those off today. So, this is the moment. And these little things do not make any contact with this. It looks like this is purely for the die and the HBM. It does mount one way only, it mounts that way. We got a huge dent in it, so we'll have to add a little bit extra thermal paste. At least over the bottom left. Yeah, the bottom left area of the HBM. So I'll just be mindful of that. Let's do this somehow. I'm left-handed, but that's in the way. That's probably not any more in the way than the blower. This is awkward. Waiting until it starts to move. There it is. Cool. Let's do this. Make sure my chin is in the video. We can maybe drop this down a bit. Yeah. Friction. It's like a motor, but it's gravity. Again, this is probably a very uneven heat sink. So our goal here is not to only fill in microscopic gaps, it's to just fill in gaps, which is unfortunate, but I'm not going to overdo it. That's probably more than enough already. Now I just want to spread it as evenly as possible and put a consistent layer across, because if there's anywhere with thinner contact, could end up with no contact given how bad the block is. What does that look like in the camera? It looks like way more than it is. I assure you there are areas that keep showing up where there's no contact, or none, or very little. It is a lot. It's more than I'd normally put, but I have been convinced that you can't use too much thermal paste. The block will just squeeze out any excess. The worst case scenario is we make a mess. This will probably end up a mess, but at least it'll actually be covering the die or making contact with the die, because whatever they were doing was not doing that, especially with that huge dent in there. The fact that this thing draws like, 500 watts is ridiculous. This is more heat than the CPU by far. Let's get that corner. Because we're not just applying to an IHS, I want to be a little more careful about about having total coverage because there's no heat spreader. This is it. If you miss a spot, you could just cook that part of the die. And with Vega, that's more likely than not. I think that's good. I see no thin spots, and there is a little extra down in the corner where there's that dent in the block. Hopefully enough extra that that it works. That was definitely that hotspot temperature that I kept seeing. No, it's picking it back up. Don't take it off the die, put it on the die. I guess I got to sweep it outwards. I know this is overkill, but I did this with the CPU and that was less critical than this, so. Good. Very good. I also kind of feel like filling in that dent. I'm going to do that actually. No, I'm going to only apply some paste right on that huge dent in the block. Like a baby blob that should squish out and fill that for sure. That's it. Awesome. The 2 dents have been filled with a couple blobs of paste. I can wipe off that excess over there. Dripped out. There, so that's where our 2 big dents were. And that's more than enough paste. That is overkill, but it's going to be better than what it was. This is correct. Let's line up the feet. Oh, I see. That has to, well, I don't see. Actually, I thought I saw, but I do not. Did this have to go in first? It didn't? It doesn't fit somehow. And I don't know how or why. Maybe my eyes were just super off, but there we go. That's it. It's on. I was about to say success, but we don't know if it's a success yet. We just know that it's on. I'm going to hold that there. Just clap out and back on, but hopefully that's fine. All right. I don't like that. That's okay, though. So the bracket is next, I guess. This guy. That. At least they put captive screws on this. If I can give them, if there's any points to be given to them, which there really aren't, but it's that there's captive screws and springs on this, because this would be impossible otherwise, or impossible to do well. There's that, and this is I was warned that there's a terrifying amount of pressure that you have to put on this, and I see exactly what they mean now. That is a terrifying amount of pressure on that piece of metal. Definitely squish any excess paste out, though. Oh, okay. It can make clicking noises, that's fine. Start tightening these all in a even order. great. 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 All right. That is it. I know for a fact that's much better than it was. So let's see if it makes a difference in the real world, in actual temperatures. You can put this guy back on. The fan is reconnected. You got to reconnect that obnoxious LED thing. I'm glad I did this so far. I'm glad I'm doing this. I don't know if I will be glad I did it. Depends on the results, but I am glad I'm doing it currently. Especially given all the terribleness I found inside. Had I known that would be there in advance, I could have had the most clickbait title. Like, they did what to the Vega? Question mark, question mark. That would have been great, but nope. I'm figuring it out on the fly. And this is this is literally just sort of like squeezes, and it does that. It does that. It does that to the bottom bracket of the card. So I've got to like squeeze it around and slide it under the panel header at the same time. Like this, and then forwards, and then down. It just feels not good, but this whole card's kind of bizarre. There it is. All right. That's the blower cap back on. We'll just get to reinstall the rest of the screws. Could have been worse. I think that went quite smoothly. Does that screw have resistance? There we go, that's it. Just had to realign a little. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. I definitely didn't drop 6 screws. They're definitely together. There's one. Probably just rolled somewhere while I was dealing with the heat sink. Again, least professional setup ever. I remember seeing those two go. I literally didn't hear anything else fall, so no idea. Let's from this. Let's attach these side screws in the meantime. The screws that mount to this side are pretty much identical. I think they are identical to the ones that went in the front plate. Or maybe they're painted silver. No, these dark gray sort of metal-y ones are the ones in the port plate. I'll reposition the camera now. Yep. That is also correct. Oh, that is a slightly off axis. Maybe not. These two go there. The bottom is lined up and the two on the side don't look like they're lined up. We'll mount this and see what happens. Perhaps it will readjust itself. I think I need to loosen these up. I'm going to loosen the whole back and give it some room to move. Because I think it's just ever so slightly off alignment. What else can I loosen? These two in the back. Yep, that should do it. Now this can go in not at an angle. Sorry for this portion of the video which you cannot see. All right, good. Now the other one. This could be a incorrectly sized driver. Either that or it's just still off somehow. I don't want to strip the screw. I'm not stripping the screw now, but it keeps skipping. Let's see if we have something more appropriately sized. Perhaps this one. Why are you unhappy, screw? It does not want to move. It's a left-right axis thing. It's very bizarre. That's it. That was my fault. Cool. And I was using an incorrect driver. All right, now we can go back to the small one. Finish up the front panel. Front, is that really the front panel? I guess so. I think where the ports are is the front. One screw above each display connector, presumably for grounding purposes. Looks like the ground of the of each DisplayPort and HDMI connector is connected to where this screw is attaching. And I guess that just goes to case ground. What a terrible job they did with this. Okay. So that's that. You can reattach or retighten the rear of the card. Bottom. This is the bottom of the card, probably. That's why I don't have enough screws. I used the wrong ones. I put them in the wrong places. These screws go where the back plate is not. So that means nothing here. Means this should go here. That's what happened. I forgot I had a back plate that I'm about to add some thermal pads to. So the four corners don't have screws. That means this. No? Yeah, that does. So retighten this. I knew I didn't lose screws. Okay. So, no. I do need one there. No. And yes. All right. Perfect. You got the perfect amount of screws. This goes here. All All right, it can do that. That is fine. This is here. Great. Now the side screws. Sorry. The side screws. Which again are slightly misaligned, but it's a tricky problem to solve. Okay, that was an easy problem to solve. These black ones are the side panel attachment. One, two. I don't know why I'm counting. I have no idea how many of these there are. I'll stop doing that now. Another one. I do like that there's a BIOS switch on here. That is convenient. I've already used it once, and I broke the BIOS. I flashed it with a liquid BIOS, and that didn't break it. That worked fine. It was when I tried to flash it back to stock, I picked the wrong stock BIOS, and then it just wouldn't boot. So I just flipped it over to the other one, and then booted, and then flipped it back, and then flashed it, and it was fine. It was super handy if you're someone who likes to mess with things. Yep, made in China. Top level assembly job they did, obviously. Yes, there are 4 screws that go back there. They are not those. These are the backplate screws. That's nothing. Okay, now I've lost screws, but that's okay. Those aren't important, and I'll find them. And I can always reattach them. Let's put the backplate on, since I do have all the screws for that, and that's important. That was the whole point of this video. Part of the point of this video, fixing the Vega backplate. So we'll use the thicker pad, because this is I think it's quite a gap. It is. There's like a slot for where a pad may go, but there is no pad. So we'll definitely use the thicker one for this. I'm going to cut it into very thin strips. So something like that. Cool. Now I'll cut this strip in half, and that should about cover it. Great. There's one set of VRMs. Everything's a VRM to me. Those aren't VRMs. Don't listen to me. Let's cut this in half, or in a section. I think if I cut it about here-ish. That's good. This is all part of the power regulation segment, though. I know that much, at least. This is perfect for those two. My supercharged Vega. That, let's cut this strip in half. Yeah. Yeah, just right here. And this can be cut into 2/3 and a third. The 2/3 section goes on those two. The last third, look at that. That was the perfect amount of thermal pad. That was not orchestrated. I was very worried I wouldn't have enough. That's it. That's all the sort of power section that's hanging out. Anything else we can put thermal pads on? We don't really have much extra. There's this thin pad, but I don't think that's going to be of much use to anything back here. There's a little chip there. International rectifier. Oh, it's what is this? A phase switcher? It's an IR 35217. And it's hanging out around the, is the PCIe input? I think that's a switcher or something like that. Mainly looking for things that look like they'll get hot. Those would be useful to cover, maybe. I don't know, at this point it's just like throw thermal pads on stuff. Hope it makes it better. It won't make it worse, at least. Let's put a little one on that IR chip. Feel like that's some kind of switching device. There's some circuitry around it. Could be doing an important job. We don't know, but we'll cool it down anyway, because we can. These also might be way too thick, and or so thick that they overwhelm that thin piece there. But I think that's it. Let's take the backing off. That's an important step. You do not want to leave the plastic on your thermal pads. Unless you just want to cook your card, that's fine too. Maybe if I press this down, try and adhere it a little more. Cool. See, now this back plate will be not just cosmetic, because it does look quite pretty, but it will it'll help us take some of the heat off of these power components, which should hopefully give us a little bit more stable performance under load, given how power hungry this card is. With the power limits removed, I should add. I did just remove the power limit because I was power throttling all the time. As soon as it went under load, before it even heated up, it would like hit power draw max and then just stop. So I removed the power limit and that helped. And then I hit thermal limit. And so then I tweaked the fan and then that helped. But now we're here where I realized that there was a hot spot, and now I can pretty safely say it was that huge dent and the terrible job they did with the thermal paste application. Make sure these are all sticky and no plastic. Yep, this is the last one. On top of this mysterious international rectifier chip. I could Google it, but my phone is there and my computer is in front of me, so that's fine. We will never know. Or we could if I remember. I actually really want to know now. It's an IR 35715, did I say? 35217. I'll Google that when I'm done. 35217. Figure out what it is I'm cooling down. Okay, this is, again, the thin pad with the malleable, and it's so tiny now too. It's the worst possible combination. There we go. I guess I could double up that pad if it doesn't make contact. I don't know if that's a good or a bad idea. Can you double up a thermal pad? I assume it's the same deal as putting a thick one on. As long as they're making good, as long as it's like glued to itself. This is kind of janky, but it will probably work. All right, this is it, a useful Vega backplate. Now, assuming it fits, the screw holes are lined up, all the screws are in, that's all set. Let's do this. Attempt this, rather. No promises in doing. Aha, yeah, that is very nice. I feel the thermal pads. And right back there too, on that IR chip and all of these guys. This thing is going to dissipate much heat now. Let's reattach this. We will try and boot it up in this video and see if it see if we broke it or if it will boot, and see what the temps are. So for reference, under like Unigen Heaven benchmark, I was getting 64 degrees core with like 80 degrees hotspot, or 70, between 75 and 80 degrees hotspot temp, and the hotspot temp is what was causing it to throttle. So the goal of this is to see if this drops that hotspot temp closer to the core, or even if, like, I would actually be just as happy if, let's try and cut this pad off there. I'd be just as happy if the core is now hotter as well as the hotspot, because that would imply that, given that I know we did this pretty accurately, I did this pretty accurately. We're doing this together, YouTube. Given that this is pretty accurate, it would mean that we're allowing the core to ramp up more, probably. If we can get, if those two temperatures are closer. But the actual core was being limited by whatever that hotspot temp was. I'm assuming that was the HBM, because that's kind of was the part that was in question, and that's what was close to the dent in the block. So there we go, a fully reassembled Vega 64. I think I'm going to turn, since I have more LEDs in there, I'm going to turn on this like GPU tack thing, and I'm going to leave the LEDs blue. No one will ever see it, but it'll be cool. No window on this case. This is, yeah, that's tight. Let's clean it off a little and grab a different cloth. Here's my clean cloth, cleaning fluid. Zeiss monitor cleaner. Should be, it's relatively gentle stuff. Get the fingerprints off. Now it's been done properly. This is how it should have come out of the factory. No, they just had to rip it down the assembly line and mess up my thermal pads. Cool. That looks good. Let's I mean, there's presumably 4 screws missing back here, but I really don't know what they do, unless they're, yeah, I honestly have zero idea about these. I honestly don't think there were screws there. I'd have to rewind this video and see if I took them out, but I really don't think there were screws there. I think those were like optional or something. Let's hope. All right, so we have a new Vega. We have a M.2 SSD that is properly cooled with only the controller making contact with the heatsink and not the flash. And there's another SATA card waiting for us in the case. So let's head down to the case. You see, this is the mini tour, even though it's kind of a mess now. Let's clean this up. Not of the whole room, just of this section forwards. The whole room tour will come later, after I have time to clean up all the computer parts that are screwdrivers and kits that are everywhere, boxes. So we got the Apollo over there, Razer Tournament Edition, Chroma Corsair M65, crappy old SteelSeries mouse pad. I'm thinking of getting a new one. That's the 43-inch monitor. That's a second display I may or may not use, just as like extra. Now we'll move under the desk to where the computer is. My face. All right. And as you can see, the Noctua CPU cooler is somewhat disassembled. That's because I tried to mount the Vega in this lower PCI Express slot, and it got caught. Didn't get caught. The PCIe latch closed, but it didn't fit because of that, and I couldn't push the latch because of that. So I had to take out the fan in the middle to get it back out. So it doesn't fit there. I learned the hard way. It's like, but what if I try? Nope, still doesn't fit. So here's the new plan. Can I bring you guys closer? Perhaps. I will raise the desk because this is an IKEA desk. Oh, that's lower. Yeah. Come under the desk. All right. Let's. So this is going in the PCI Express by 8 slot, routed to the CPU PCIe lanes. Because it won't fit in the by 16 slot, it does not affect the performance much, if any. It's like 2%. So it's basically negligible if it's non-existent. So if it was faster, if it was like a GTX 20 series or a Titan, then maybe we'd start to see the by 8 slot fully saturated, but not in this case. I'm going to try and give this card as much support as I can because it's so heavy. Lower it slightly. There we go. And these two cards, what do they look like? Oh, it's just my back. These two cards up there are SATA cards. The one I already had, and the other one I just bought today along with that PCIe SSD expander. And I needed one more SATA port, but I also I was running a drives certification, and I was basically zeroing out all the drives before deploying them in the new RAID array. And in doing so, I realized that my 7200 RPM drives were slower than my 5400 RPM drives, and I realized all 4 of these were plugged into that controller, and that controller is connected via PCI Express 2.0 by 1, or 1 lane. So this card was bottlenecking for mechanical drives. So I wanted to split that out and or move more to the move the more important fast stuff to the motherboard controller. You know, this all came about because of that. Now let's grab the PCI Express. This thing looks so cool. I like the black. This is going to be mounted now. So we had our M.2 in the motherboard. It's now well, it was in the motherboard and it was going to PCIe lanes. Now it's going into the by 16 slot. I know I already tried the card there, it won't fit. This does though, it's not as big and it doesn't have a backplate. I also tried removing the backplate. It just wanted to short stuff out. So this Noctua is impossible. Maybe I should mount the fan first. That's fine. So this is now going by 4 lanes directly to CPU PCIe lanes. Or it is utilizing CPU PCIe lanes. That's what I'm trying to say. So that should be faster and or at least free up bandwidth on the PCH for those SATA cards and SATA ports and whatnot. Should just be for a better system. This should have gone to the CPU lanes to begin with, but whatever. So that's good, and it's actually not making contact with the Noctua cooler at all. Is it? Oh, very tiny, but there's no components on the back to short out, so I'm not concerned about that. Concerned with that. It's probably more proper English. This by 1 slot I'm going to leave empty. I'm going to leave these SATA cards up here so I can route the cables easily. So let's close off these two. Why would they put, oh, I guess it was for extra room between dual GPUs. I was like, why would they put a room for a double slot card in a PCIe by 1 lane? There's 1 lane there. Unfortunately, I can't make this much lower than it currently is without taking it off the tripod. I'll do my best. There's a by 1 lane there, but then there's 2 slots for it free. And I couldn't, nobody makes a dual slot by 1 card, to my knowledge, but I assume it was just to give extra room for a dual GPU setup. Hopefully this will also keep the SSD flash cooler and the NAND warmer. It should make for a better SSD life. It's a little, oh, that's fine. All right, another one. I'm just filling in empty PCI slots here. I remember when PCI was just PCI and not PCI Express. That was a long time ago. We had AGP graphics cards. Things have gotten so much better. Manufacturers started putting dust filters in cases. That took a while. It's like 2013 they started doing that or something. I think we're good on that. So now so this SATA card is a 2-port. I'm just going to move this. YouTube can't see anything. So we have a flipping camera magically now. All right, there we go. So here's what it looks like inside. There's the Noctua. There's the our new M.2 thing adapter. There's the graphics card. Got 2 empty slots. There's this 2 slots for the by 1 port I was talking about. These are both going to CPU lanes, and now this is by 1 PCIe 2.0 on the PCH, and this is by 1 PCIe 2.0 PCH. So only 500 megabytes a second max for each of those individually, which means with 4 7200 RPM drives on that, that's totally saturated. So I'm gonna try and load balance this somehow. But yeah, this card also has eSATA ports, although it's questionable how well their controller works. I am iffy about it, but it was $20 and it works with Mac OS. And I could pick it up at Fry's today. I didn't have to go to Amazon and wait. So that's that. I'll remount this camera and then get to reattaching the CPU fan. Let's do that first. That would help. I had to remove this in an emergency trying to get that. Like, oh no, my Vega is stuck. How do I detach it? This hook's on here somehow. Nope, there goes the rubber. I was close. Almost had it. Maybe I can. I hate these Noctua like fan hooks. It doesn't seem like a good way to mount a fan to me. But it's a great cooler, so maybe, I don't know, maybe they're onto something. It's the hooks that actually make the cooling performance, you know. That's the secret. Let's mount this there. I got it this time. Oh, almost. I got it this time. And please tell me I didn't put that on backwards. I did not. Just feels like it's backwards because of the fan cable. Which way does that cable want to twist? This way. All right. Top will probably be easier to attach, so I think I'll start with that. I think I'm gonna put it somewhere like there, quite low because the other one is too high on purpose, because I had to make room for the tall. Oh my gosh, that's just the back of my head. That is not a useful shot. Had to make room for the tall Trident Z sticks. There it is. And now the bottom. That's going to be fun. Although I think still possible with some kind of hook-like device. Yeah. Oh, that was very easy with a hook. It would have been quite difficult with fingers. It's not. It's at an angle though. This isn't straight. Take it back off. Removing it might be harder than attaching it was. And we're going to slide this down so it's somewhat aligned. Interesting. How is that set up? Did I align that? Oh, I did align this. How did I align it? I guess just look at when the bottom is straight-ish. Yeah, that would probably be the best way. Although again, only as accurate as tiny metal hooks allow. I am not removing the motherboard for this. I will make it work. There we go. Yeah, without damaging the heatsink at all, too. That's just a plus. You don't break things. Okay, so that's mounted again. USB 3 header, I had to unplug to like reach a cable. There we go. PCIe power. I will need to run a bunch of SATA cables through to these new cards, but or the new card. But I won't do that on the video because that will be probably quite boring. I'll come back with a video that's like, it's working, and here's how I did it. But running SATA cables in a organized fashion isn't the most entertaining thing. This isn't the most entertaining thing either. You guys are crazy, but educational maybe. So let's see if it works. Monitor. That's a monitor. That's not the right monitor. This is a monitor. Cool. Bunch of hard to. I got this. This is the future snake coming down from the desk. It's going to be quite nice once it's all wrapped up. All right, that's it. Let's do it. I'm terrified that something will just blow up, but a moment of truth. And nothing happened. Okay. So it's up. Ah! Hey! It didn't blow up. Let's take a look at it. That is kind of cool. It makes me almost wish I had a windowed case, except not, because it would be super loud. There we go. And is that... oh! That GPU light's not on. I thought I turned that... their LED tachometer thing on. I definitely... So, well, the card's powered up. So I didn't do something totally wrong. Ah, fans. Poke. Turn on. I need a finer pointed item. I'll deal with that later. That's fine. That's not important. But yeah, that's it. Cool. I don't know if it's working. That's a totally different issue. No signal. Great. Maybe that's why the light wasn't on. Well, that's connected. Let's hope we didn't break the Vega. I'll try this again. Did I forget anything? I don't think I did. It is fully mounted. This is gonna, maybe it's because the cable wasn't, I don't know, I'm making up things. It does take a while sometimes. Especially since power was cut. It might need to do memory training. I hope. Well, we might have just broken the Vega 64. Either that or something else is causing a problem. There is a problem. There's a red light. Why is there a red light? CPU fans are spinning. Heat sinks mounted. That thing is new. Those things are new. Okay, there is a problem. Otherwise, that red light wouldn't be on. But we don't know what the problem is. Let's start removing things until we find it. We do have a by 4 thing in a by 16 slot, so that is of question. Let's start by removing these guys. Anything but the graphics card can be broken, please. Could be this janky little thing too. Let's try that. If that doesn't work, we'll remove the M.2 card. Actually, we'll wait for that red light to go off in the top corner. That's what's saying stuff isn't working. I heard drives doing things. But no, red light. I don't know why I have a feeling it's that cheap M.2 adapter. Even though it's not doing anything big, it's just maybe it doesn't like having an NVMe SSD on the PCI Express lanes. I mean, obviously we can't boot without that, but let's see if we can get into BIOS without that. That could be the problem. I might just need to return this, so I won't get ahead of myself with finding solutions to things. So that was mounted pretty correctly. Let's try taking it out. I can't do that while I'm with the phone. Got it. All right, now let's try booting up with it like this. So this is out. Oh, the red light moved this time. It didn't move last time. What the heck? What could it be? Fans are spinning. That is so weird. I mean, the graphics card is correct. I did everything right. You guys saw. This power's connected. Oh no. What is broken? Red light. What does that red light mean? It's kind of bizarre though that it's like just like a sort of an ambiguous red light, but there's no. But the graphics card is powered up and spinning, and I definitely mounted the cooler right. What if I flip the BIOS? Let's go to the other BIOS on the card. Let's see what happens there. See if that makes a difference. I wonder if it is the card. I mean, I guess there's only one way to find out. I'll just remove it. I just don't want it to be the card. I'll give it a sec. But no. All right, well, let's remove the card and see if it boots. And I'll reinstall the NVMe. That came out surprisingly easily. Hold on. Did I just do this stupidly? That wasn't clipped in. Is that interesting? That looks like the clip underneath is closed. All right, I'm gonna just hope it was a loose power cable, and then I'll remove it. Come on, you can do it. No more red light. Give me a video signal. Nope. All right, we'll remove the card. And we'll plug into the integrated graphics right over here. Yes, that fan right over here. We'll power off. This is very mysterious. I can't think of anything I did extremely wrong. Could just be misseated. That's a word. I'm going to remount this. The drama. We'll go back to primary BIOS before I forget. It's like a very stupid error though. It's not like something complex, like it's booting and then it's heating up or I'm getting video artifacts. It's just not booting, which is weird. Well, yeah, PCI, so that was attached. Let's pull this out. Inspect things. Ah, there was some non-conductive thermal paste on one of the PCIe pins. So that would have been stopping that pin from making contact. Let's try a boot without this. I think I might have just found it though. I think the Thermal Grizzly on the PCI Express pin might have just been blocking that pin, and then it was just confused. Let's see if we get past the red dot without the GPU in. It made it to like red dot number 3, whatever that means. I'm looking up at the monitor right now, waiting for a signal from the integrated graphics. Okay. I don't know what that was. I didn't do that. Red dots. Oh, I have a signal. Okay, I'm in the BIOS. So yeah, it's booting into Windows. So it works. So the motherboard's not damaged, yay. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's reinsert this and see if we can boot into macOS off the PCI Express. Well, we can't because the integrated graphics don't work for macOS as an adapter. It does work as a compute unit. I can do quick sync, I can do HEVC encoding, but I can't get the HDMI output to work. So won't be able to see anything, but let's see if this doesn't break anything. I really think it was probably that thermal paste on the PCI Express pin. That's the only thing I can think of. I couldn't have broken the card so badly as to just make it not boot. I don't think I mean, I didn't break anything to begin with, so. To my knowledge, let's see if that was doing anything. Can we get to BIOS with that in there? No signal, no signal, no signal. Pushing delete just in case. Oh, interesting. We still have no progress. So there's something wrong with that, potentially. Why is there something wrong with that? It might just be that the Intel CPU, that the consumer grade CPUs don't have support for NVMe over their PCI Express link, which would be an interesting discovery to make. Let's throw this on the by 4 slot at the top, which is connected to the PCH, and see if it boots. Learning many things tonight. I thought this would be a short video. It was like, yeah, let's take some thermal paste off, put it back on. No big deal. boot up. Everything should just work. That's fine. All right, let's, so I'm gonna now mount the NVMe SSD on the by 4 lanes that are attached to the PCH. So now the only benefit we're getting from moving it out of the motherboard is that we get our SATA port back. But that's it. Now let's see if this works. That still would be fine with me. Nope, it goes back to the same error code. Oh, wait. No, never mind. I spoke too soon. It worked. The BIOS is reset for... Oh, no, it hasn't. What is going on? Why is the CPU at 5.2 gigahertz? What? I didn't overclock it that high. TJ Maxx has been... What? All right, we've got some weird things going on. Something's up. Let's take a look at this. So let's flip around the camera. So TJ Maxx, I just lowered this. I had boosted TJ Maxx to 105 just to give a little headroom. This was at 110. That was at 5.2 gigahertz. I only ever overclocked to 5. All my wattage settings are gone. That's the same, that 255. It remembered that. Did it like corrupt the BIOS or something? Those were disabled. It's weird though, it didn't reset to auto. To default. It just is wrong. It's settings that I didn't type in. That's right, okay. Memory settings are the same. Voltage, I'm kind of scared. Let's see if it's not nuking the CPU. Okay, so the voltage is way lower. I had it at 1.35 to stay stable. Maybe that's why it's not booting. What happened? How does the BIOS just like change? CPU vCore 1.284. I'm shocked it booted at 5.2 gigahertz at 1.28 volts. What the heck? BIOS day. It's back to BIOS F3. But I updated it to BIOS F5. What is going on there? What happened? I've never seen a BIOS unupdate itself. Maybe it just like broke and so it rolled itself back. And when it rolled itself back, it got some numbers wrong. Let's load the defaults. Something very bizarre happened with the BIOS. It's like it rolled itself back to version F3. I mean, I was just thinking maybe there's like a multiple BIOS switch and we like switched to BIOS 2, but I don't think this motherboard has that. If it does, it's a cool discovery and I bumped the switch by accident. But I was on F5 and we are on F3 now from all the way back in October. So that's very bizarre. At least we're back to default settings now. So no idea what's up with that. Let's see if our NVMe thing shows up. It does. There it is. Okay, 970 Pro. So that works. This is an easy way to see if it'll go over CPU lanes. Let's run the by 4 switch to the CPU lanes, save and reboot, and see if it breaks. If it does, we know it's the CPU. If it doesn't, it could just be the by 16 slot that it doesn't like. see what happens. Oh, yeah, it works. All right, CPU temps are, let's double check the temps, make sure nothing's getting nuked. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's right where it should be. So, so we can, well, we booted. That doesn't mean it sees the thing. Let's see if it sees it. It does still see it. So it sees this attached to the CPU. Now, let's move this back to the by 16 slot with the BIOS reset. And I'm going to quickly just like poke around and see if I see any secondary BIOS switches that I might have flipped. I really don't think there are any. I guess it would be on the side or something. I did unplug that. Maybe I hit something. There's no switch there, or it would be at the top. I don't know. I did make quite a few changes, just unplugging cards and moving cards around. That is one of the strangest things I've ever seen. There's a lot of strange things happening tonight. All right, let's throw this back in the by 16 lane. So we know that the CPU is happy with it. Is the by 16 slot happy with it? The only reason I would do this is for cable management, and also because if I run that in CPU lane mode, I lose 4 lanes on the GPU. It's already running it by 8. I don't want to run it at by 4. All right, let's see if that works. Unless it was shorting out on the Noctua. Could it have been? Let's see what's down by there. No, I really don't think so. There's nothing on this that would suggest that it would be like a short. Like, it's concerning, but it's... All right, so that is remounted. Can we boot? If we boot here, then we'll throw the graphics card back in. Yes. Does it see the SSD? Poking over the desk here. It does. Great. So we can run this. We can run that on CPU lanes. Let's add the graphics card next. We'll re-add stuff one at a time and see if we can get this alive again. There was some thermal paste on one of the pins that I missed, and so that could have very well been a problem. That's fine now, though. All right. Here we go, round 2. Please don't be dead. You are expensive. That's why I haven't reinstalled all my audio software yet, because I'm gonna wait till it's like 100%, just in case something goes wrong and I have to reformat. I did reattach everything. All right, let me check those little, I probably should have done this while the card was out, but it's too late now. I'm gonna check those little jumpers for the LEDs. Maybe one of those got stuck in like a 50% position, and it, I'm like grasping at straws for possible explanations. Trying to find my thin pointy metal device I can use to flip the switch with. I don't know where that went, but this will also do. Let's double check that. That is in the on position. It's fully in the on position. Yep. On and blue for the LEDs. So let's reattach PCIe power thoroughly. Be very careful with every step of this and try and eliminate problems. I don't like these, I don't like the wiggly 6+2 deal. All right. That's that. Please boot with a graphics card. It honestly could have just been like corrupt BIOS for who knows what reason, and it like rescued itself. Why the BIOS corrupted? No idea at all. It's even on a UPS, like. Oh, it is set to graphics card output over iGPU output, so let's go back to that. Oh, there's a blue light on the graphics card now. That was not there before, the LED. It's underneath, but it is there. That's a somewhat good sign. Might need to reboot with the monitor connected, because I totally swapped that out halfway through. Let's try that. Or it could be that primary display output is set to PCI Express 1. Nope, it's not. I'm making things up. It just booted. Kind of. I see the BIOS screen. I'm waiting to get into BIOS. And I'm in. Let's go back. Here we are. Great, so it's not either of those things. We're still on that F3 BIOS, which is weird, but the graphics card is working and it's displaying stuff. Windows, there's our NVMe SSD. Internal graphics set to auto. PCIe by 4 slot. Oh yeah, let's move this back to PCH slide. Set the display output to PCIe 2 slot. I'm not going to configure much, but just enough to make this, let's drop CSM support, switch this to WHQL. I'll enable the internal graphics, disable Wake on LAN. All right, let's do that. It's getting better. Save and exit setup. Let's see if that works. Why the heck did the BIOS go back to like 2 versions? I've never seen that happen before. Yep, and we're good still. All right. Double check our temps everywhere. We can't see the graphics card, but everything is perfectly reasonable, so. It's another thing I'll have to Google. And international rectifier 35217. So we could boot into macOS now if we wanted. I'm going to, actually let's do that. I won't mess with the SATA cards now. I will mess with those. I'll mess with those after the video because this is like 145 minutes. That was ridiculous. The video. That's working just like it should. It's just obnoxious. Here, I'll just mount this here. Sorry, tripod movement. All right. There we are. Back in macOS, I want to test out my my new graphics card. I don't know what the heck happened. I just typed that in wrong, I think. All right, GPU is hovering where it normally was. CPU V-core is extremely high because it's on auto, and auto is dumb. Our power play tables have loaded. I can see that the memory is at 1.05 gigahertz, 1050 megahertz, which is the power play setting. So what I would like to do then, let's see if the SSD is any faster first, and that's not a benchmark. Oh, I haven't signed into the App Store, so I can't run Blackmagic, I don't think. I don't want to sign in yet. It's going to like yell about my Apple ID and you're on a new device. Okay, I'll do that later too. Let's just focus on the GPU. Let's run some Luxmark. I was getting about 31,000 before. So ideally I'm getting the same performance, but the temps stay lower because nothing else has changed. It was 25,000 with the Luxball HDR. It was 25,000 before I did any power play settings, so it's totally worth tweaking that. Let's see, OpenCL selected devices only, Vega 64 compute engine. Let's watch those temps. 64, 69, 71, 73. Speed is the same, 75. It was around 84 this time last time. There's a smaller like delta between the core and the peak is less. So that second number is the hotspot temperature. I figured out that's what it's showing me. And that's core. Core is 66, hotspot 77. So it's about a 10-degree difference. It was like 15, so it's come down. 3725 samples a second. That temperature is going up to 79. If it made no difference, that's fine. At least I know that I didn't make it worse. But it does seem to be better. It's at 79. My UPS says there was an event. So maybe there was a power surge and it was something totally unrelated. Anyway, we're drawing 474 from the wall. But when I came back, it was showing voltage and not wattage, which I have it set to voltage. And there's an event 1. So what happened? I'm not entirely sure. And I'm wondering if there was like a power spike or something while I was gone, and it just isn't my fault at all. Okay, 31 to 65. That's about exactly the same. But the temperatures, oh, that dropped fast. Look at that. Okay, it is working better. Oh, you can't see that. It's already down to 50. It took way longer to cool down last time, which to me showed that it also might take a while for the compound to cure or something to like melt. Let's do Unigine Heaven. That seems to be the worst offender of heat. Yeah, extreme, whatever, that's good. Regular settings. I mean, it's on macOS, but the point is to test the power play tables that I have set, so Let's see if we don't throttle at all. Running fine. I think this actually helped. 67 hotspot, only 50 C core right now. That is awesome. Okay, 55, 56. So this core's, the core peak before was similar, but the hotspot was much higher. I saw it hit 84, 85 before. We're at 76. If it's lower than 74, I'll be happy, or 84, I'll be happy. I do notice that the fan isn't at like maximum tornado level though. All right, now we're getting into the 80s. 81. The fan is spinning up. 82. This is a very uncontrolled test as well though, because I also had the window open and cool air blowing down onto the case last night. 78, it's back down. So it's going between 77 and 81. 82. 76. 81. It was 84, 85. Oh, 83. 84. Oh no! It's the dragon. The dragon does it. 83. And but the core is 69. Core was, yeah, that's much more even. Again, there's like a 10-degree delta now between, or maybe I'm making that up. Am I? No, I'm not. 71, 83. 69, 83. It's probably the biggest delta. It was like 64 and something like 70s before though. High 70s. Yeah, 10-degree delta between peak and core. So I think it did something. If anything, the fan definitely isn't as loud. Still sounds like a tornado, but it's not running as hard. Maybe I'll modify the fan curve and try and have it kick in a little sooner. So who knows if we did anything useful, but we discovered some cool stuff. And I don't think we're thermal throttling anymore. We're hitting higher power targets, which is cool. It's never got beyond 474. Now we're drawing. Oh, there was. Do you see that? That was a thermal throttle, or a that dip. It was, or it was a change of scene. Could have just been a change of scene in the benchmark. Nope, that's throttling. So we're either hitting a power limit or we're hitting a thermal limit. And maybe it's a thermal limit. So maybe I'll just undervolt more. This card is difficult. But yeah, we did a thing. Cool. At least I know what's inside now. And I know that's better compound. I'll run this for a while, heat it up, let it settle in, see what happens. Maybe undervolt the HBM a little more. So that was fun, and it boots. No idea what was up with all of that. So I get to go reprogram the BIOS. Yeah, I guess that's it for this video. That was a lot. It's way too long already. So I will be back. I'll see you guys in another video. I think it helped. It seems like it helped. I think it helped. I don't know. I didn't really test before, so I'm like lost, but I think it helped. Yeah, I'll be back with another video where after I have all the SATA cables mounted, after I've reset the BIOS and reflashed it, because what the heck happened there. Maybe I can run a diagnostic on my thing and ask it what happened while I was gone. And maybe that has something to do with the BIOS frying. I don't know. But yeah, good. I'll see you guys later. This has been super long.